So you're starting an LLC and you want to know how to get it set up, but more importantly in this video, I'm going to show you how to avoid all of the common pitfalls that new business owners with a new LLC make. We're going to do that with this LLC setup and survival flowchart. Now, I'm purposely just showing you the top of it because it's less overwhelming, but as we get going, you're going to see that there's a lot of steps here. You might be thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want to even do this. That looks like so much. We're going to break it down and make it really simple for you. The way we're doing that is we have this free Notion doc that you can get. You'll find a link in the description below for this, but it's the 21 steps that you see there. We've embedded the flowchart here. If you don't see it when you open it up, it might just be that you need to just pull it over. But the reason we embedded it is because beneath the flowchart, you're going to see 21 different drop-down toggles. And each one of these is going to give you extra context for that blue number. So you can see number 4 here is talking about, do you have a registered agent? Well, when you open up number 4, it's going to give you more information. But a lot of times what you're going to see is that there's actually going to be a prompt that we're going to use, and we're going to leverage AI, specifically ChatGPT, and also give you information that is specific to your state, because somebody setting up an LLC in Texas is different than somebody setting up an LLC in Florida. So the value of this document is that we can make it hyper specific to your situation. Now, why don't we zoom in a little bit here in the very beginning and go through this. So the first step is, do you have a business name in mind? Now, if you do not, you see the no here, you go here, and it says number 1, and it says copy our prompt into the AI chat agent below for brainstorming. Now, I've already done this to help speed things up, but you'd simply open this up and you can see I'm starting a insert type of business, and it helps solve insert customer pain points problems. We're different because, and then can you help me brainstorm name ideas for the business with these factors in mind? Now, these prompts are very specific because it's not just like, hey, help me brainstorm names for a coffee shop. It's actually going into something called positioning. Positioning is when you look at a category such as coffee shops, and then you try to carve out a position in the mind of your consumer. So in this particular case, for this example, I went with this. I said, I'm starting a coffee shop business and it helps to solve slow lines at other coffee shops. We are different because we take orders ahead in the line and we can get your coffee quicker. Can you help me brainstorm name ideas for the business with these factors in mind? So again, if you're naming this coffee shop in your local town and you want to be like, we're the quick coffee shop, well, just like that, this is going to help you crank out 10 different ideas. Express Brew Cafe, a Head Brew Coffee, etc. I asked it to give me more, give me 20 more names, and there they are. So you can start to see the value of these prompts that coordinate with each of these steps in the LLC flowchart, and then it's going to help you really get organized. Now, if you're like me, you can still look at this chart here, and if we zoom out a little bit, you're like, this looks pretty daunting and overwhelming. Well, what we've done also is if you scroll down to the bottom here, you're going to see a progress tracker. So each one of these items here, when we get into it, so you're going to file your articles of organization or choose a business name, you can click on these items here. And when we open it up, it's going to open up to the right and it's going to give you more context. And in some of these as well, there's going to be links. So take a look at this one, the Get EIN. So for example, for the Get EIN number, I'm going to link inside of the card to the IRS website where you can get the EIN set up if you want to go directly through the IRS. And then as you start to move these things around, you can start to feel that little bit of relief that you're getting progress and you're moving things towards being done. What I'd like to do is highlight some of the main key points of the LLC flowchart so that you don't make the common mistakes that everyone else makes. Now, first, why don't we take a look at just the setup process? It's pretty simple, right? You need a business name, and then you need to verify if that name is available in your state. So when you get to that second section there, you can go on your state website. They'll have what's called an entity database, and you can look up the name that you have in mind and make sure that it is actually available. Now, if it's not available, you can use the name checker tool below. That's another resource that's free for you. And where would you get that? You just simply open up this second toggle and it would have that resource in there for you. So once you do have a name though, you need to know the total cost of your state LLC. So we've actually developed a pricing calculator that you'll find in step 3. That'll show you the pricing of the top LLC services down to the dollar in your state. Then it'll talk about registered agents, and you can open that up if you're not familiar with what a registered agent is. I'll tell you that one really quickly. Registered agent, that's a third-party service that handles important documentation and communication. They have to have a mailing address, not a PO box, a mailing address in the state of formation, and you legally are required to have a registered agent on file. Now, have you formed your LLC? No. Check out section 5 of your options on how to form your LLC. And then just like that, you've taken the actions and your setup of your LLC has begun because you file your articles of organization, you have your registered agent, but then where it gets tricky is down here. So this is the part that I actually want to spend more time on because there's so much content out there about setting up an LLC, but these are the little things that people forget. Now, have you obtained the proper licenses and permits? Chances are you haven't yet. So what you can do is you can research this on your own or pay for a service to help with this. So I'm going to go down to number 6 here because this one's really important. What you're going to find here is a prompt. So right here it says I'm starting a insert type of business and the location. What licenses and permits would be needed for this? Well, again, why don't we take a look at this through the example of a coffee shop, and we will say that it's in my hometown of Buffalo, New York. So when you click this, the AI chat agent is going to go through and it's going to give you a detailed list of the different licenses and permits that you may want to consider. And then you're going to have to go through and set these up. So this is going to really factor on a few things. It's going to factor on your location because every town and county may have different rules and regulations. But if you're serving like food and alcohol, you're clearly going to need licenses and permits to be able to do that. Other businesses such as mine, which is more online based, there's not those licenses and permits that are necessary. So it really depends on your situation. So why don't we skip ahead here? Have you set up an EIN yet? Well, you can go to the IRS website to do this or go through a paid service. And the neat thing is that when you go to the bottom here and you see the Get EIN number, when you open that up, you're actually going to see the specific website and the link and the resource here that is going to take you there. If there's a prompt that's an additional prompt, you'll find that in this space as well. So you can see right here, filing of articles of organization, choosing a business name, creating an operating agreement. This is a detailed prompt that you can use with AI that's going to help you form that operating agreement. Now, something worth mentioning is this is not generated by an attorney. It's using AI. If you are a solopreneur and it's just you, your operating agreement, I feel more comfortable using something like this. But if you're operating with partners, that's where I might consider hiring an attorney to make sure you get a very detailed operating agreement. The reason is if one day one of your partners decides to leave the business, if you have a rock solid operating agreement and what happens in those situations, you just refer to that operating agreement and then you're able to separate easily. If you don't have those things spelled out ahead of time and the business is profitable, that's where it gets messy and you start running up a bill with attorneys. So I think at this point you understand the value of the sheet below. I don't want to necessarily go into every single prompt and walk you through everything, but I want to give you a very high level overview of what we're looking at each of these steps. So we talked about the EIN, that's your employment identification number. If you're going to be running payroll, setting up a business bank account, you're going to have this. It's like a social security number for your business. Pretty easy to set up with the IRS. Do you have a dedicated business bank account? The reason that you need this is if you use your personal bank account, when you're running a business through it, so it's called commingling funds. You're using personal and business funds in that bank account. That is a no-no, and that can create a crack in your LLC. Now, the technical term for that is the corporate veil. An attorney is going to try to pierce the corporate veil if they're trying to sue you. So in the example of a coffee shop, like somebody gets hurt and the attorney that they hire is trying to sue you, they're trying to find that crack in your LLC. And if you're commingling funds, it could make your LLC null and void. And what would happen because of that is that they can come after your business and personal assets. Now, do you have an operating agreement? We talked about that already quickly and the importance of that and then the fact that you can use AI to help you build that. Where I'm at with AI right now is very similar, and I'm kind of dating myself when I say this. When I was in high school, the internet was a new thing. And I remember I had a librarian that just should tell us, you can't trust anything on the internet. You can't trust anything on the internet. AI is constantly getting better and better. And I think in just a few short years, you're going to see massive adoption for people using it for things such as operating agreements and things of that nature. But again, I would highly advise you to go with an attorney if you feel like there's a lot of risk or partners involved with your business. Now, have you researched and fulfilled all state LLC requirements? This is nice because you can use the chatbot, your specific state, tell me what all the specific requirements are in the state. Like different states require different things. In New York, it's kind of archaic. They require you to actually post twice in the local newspaper about setting up the LLC. Why they still make you do that, I have no idea. Now, do you sell taxable goods and services, and have you set up sales tax? So important, you have to set up your sales tax with the state. Basically, it's like you're selling a physical product. If you don't have the sales tax certificate set up with the state, you're not collecting that sales tax. When it comes tax time, you're going to have a very large tax bill, and you're probably going to have fines and fees on top of it because you didn't actually take this step. Have you researched if you need a foreign LLC? This is really important as well. If you have employees out of state, if you have building and equipment out of state, you may have to set up a foreign LLC in those states as well. And there's going to be a nice chat prompt that is going to explain all of that in further detail for you. Have you researched any local taxes that may be required? Again, there's a nice prompt in there for the chatbot to explain in your area what may be required. So have you looked into business insurance? Again, different types of businesses require different types of insurance. I originally did not have insurance for my business, which is more online based, but as the business grew, I added in a cyber insurance just because it gives me extra coverage. But certain businesses, such as like a roofing company, there's going to be different insurances that you are required to have to operate that roofing company. Also, it's a high liability type of business, so you want to have those in place. Have you set up your books for accurate accounting? Now, I put here get QuickBooks or other software. I mentioned QuickBooks just because it's like the gold standard. They're not sponsoring this video or anything, but one thing I would say is a lot of new business owners, they set up their LLC and they don't really do a great job of bookkeeping, and taxes are an absolute mess at the end of the year because you might be looking at something in your checking account and it just says Amazon. And you're like, oh my gosh, what was that? Was that office supplies? Was that something else? I don't know. When you're doing proper books starting day one, taxes and everything come Q1 of next year will be so much easier for you. Do you understand and pay quarterly estimated taxes? There's a copy paste prompt here as well, but I can give you a quick overview of this. Once you start earning over $1,000 of net income, that is when you're going to have to start paying quarterly taxes, and that's on the federal and state level. And there's again a prompt in here that's going to help explain that in further detail. Do you know the issues around misclassifying workers? This one is so huge. Too many times, I actually had an employer that did this. They misclassified an employee as a contractor. Why would they do that? They were saving on taxes, and then it turned out that that person technically was behaving like an employee. You never want to mislabel an employee as a contractor because, again, fines and fees, court time, lawyer fees, all that are going to add up. And typically what's going to happen in most states is they're going to favor with the employee over the employer. So make sure you know the difference on that. And you go to number 17 drop down here. And just like that, you just can copy and paste this prompt into AI and it's going to give you a detailed explanation. Yes, this flowchart can look overwhelming, but a lot of these are just educational, right? It's like once you understand the difference between an employee and a contractor, you can put that in the back of your mind. And when you have somebody joining you, make sure that you're looking into that again and knowing that you're not making that mistake that a lot of new business owners make. Are you aware of the annual LLC requirements in your state? These will vary state to state. There's a few states that don't have any annual compliance where you don't need to renew your LLC. There's several states, I think it's around like 11, I can't remember off the top of my head, that every 2 years, they call it biennial, that you have to update and renew your LLC. What goes into that? Well, basically you have to fill out a form and you also have to pay the fee to the state. And those fees can really range from state to state, but it keeps your LLC active and compliant. Again, if you don't do this and you're sued, you're in that coffee shop and you get sued, they can come after all of your business and personal assets because there's a crack in your LLC. So make sure you're aware of those requirements within the state that you're filing your LLC. So now we're on to section 19 here. Do you know when you should elect S Corp tax classification? This is something that I want you to be able to store away for the future, but basically once your business starts netting about $40,000 to $50,000 of net income, that is when it makes sense to classify yourself as an S Corp for tax purposes. The copy paste prompt below in the toggle 19 is going to explain that in further detail. But again, I had an employer who didn't know this and he ended up spending way too much on taxes because he wasn't taking advantage of the S Corp tax classification. Do you have contracts or clear agreements with your employees and vendors? Again, there's a copy paste here with ChatGPT, which is going to help you figure out what you need to do in that situation. A lot of times new business owners, they don't have these things in place. And then it's not an issue until it is. And what's a judge going to say? They're like, well, let's see what the contract says. And you say, I don't have one. They're going to side with that employee. They're going to side with that vendor typically because you as the business owner didn't take the proper steps. Have you marked important renewal dates in your calendar? This one's pretty cool. Go down to number 21 right here. Let's see what we got. So I have an LLC in this state and we're going to copy and paste this and let's see what we got to fill out. I have an LLC and we're going to say New York State, and you can abbreviate it if you want. I'm going to say NYS. And I want a thorough list of everything in the yearly calendar that I need to consider when I'm managing my business in LLC. So this is really neat, and I think this is probably worth actually talking about in further detail as we're starting to wrap up this video. But number one, biennial estate filing. So it's already telling me New York State is every 2 years. Publication requirements, mentioned that earlier. You actually have to publish in 2 newspapers for 6 consecutive weeks. Wow. Estimated taxes, it gives me the dates of when those are due. Tax extension filing. So if you do want to file for an extension, that is something you can do. Sales tax filings, when those are due. Quarterly estimated tax payments, and then business renewal. So all that is handled right there, and I'll show you the sources as well if you want to take a look at those. My recommendation is as you go, just kind of close these things up so everything doesn't look quite as overwhelming. And then you can do your progress tracker right here, and you can make a copy of this. And to use this when you get into it, you can just duplicate this right here and you can make a copy of it for yourself. And then you can track your progress through what's called a Kanban board here. This is a progress tracker, and make it very easy on yourself. I know when we started, it looks like a lot and you're like, this is so overwhelming. Just take it step by step, go through the flowchart, go through the prompts, go through the AI chat agent, and make it easier on yourself and safeguard your new business to make sure that you're not skipping any steps. Now, a lot of these steps, you can fast track it by going through an online LLC service tool. It may cost you a little bit extra money, but in this video right here, I actually attempt to purchase an LLC with the top 7 services, and I run them through a series of tests so that you can see what it looks like post-purchase and be aware of any hidden fees and things that you should be aware of when you're looking at online LLC services. So I'll catch you in that next video. Again, you can find this Notion doc in the description below or the link on the screen.